and response handling, specifically for SecOps efficiency. So this is where you will see custom detections, alerts, incidents, investigations, things like that. And then towards the end, we will leave some few minutes. I think we'll have about 20 minutes or so. I'm aiming for Q&A, but I will not be monitoring my chat as I go through the session. However, please feel free to continue adding your questions in the chat, and then towards the end we'll have a dedicated Q&A. So let's talk about business email compromise. According to FBI, in 2019, BC was the costliest type of cybercrime. And since 2016, BC has accounted for more than $43 billion of losses. And over the years, we've observed very advanced flavors of these Beck attacks. A classic attack or a single stage attack is something where attackers would impersonate or spoof executives of a company or business partners, IT staff, HR staff, and more. And here, they leverage techniques such as domain impersonation or user impersonation or exact domain spoofing. And we'll look at these techniques in the next few slides on what these are. But typically, the email can contain a basic request to, let's say, purchase gift cards, or they'll request HR or financial data, or say process an invoice with updated payment details. So that's a single stage attack. Now, a very complex or more of a staged attack is what we refer to as multi-stage attack, is where attackers use techniques such as credential phishing, or let's say a password was leaked somewhere, and then they compromise an account or maybe multiple accounts, and then they set up a forwarding rule on the victim's email account and continue to monitor new emails that are coming from partners or your vendors, and typically those that involve a financial exchange, because in more or less of these cases they are after money. So later, at a point when they see that trust is established, they see an opportunity related to a very significant transaction. That's when the attackers intervene and use the same techniques such as impersonation or spoofing. And finally, the attacker modifies the wire transfer or financial transaction details and leads the victim to process a fake invoice. Furthermore, FBI IC3 2021 report also shows some interesting evolution of BC leveraging virtual meeting platforms and collaboration tools for fraud wire transactions. And then these are transferred immediately to cryptocurrency or deep fakes. No updates to cover in today's session regarding those. However, this is something that we will be looking into as we head into the future and as we collaborate with Teams team and other teams groups at Microsoft to partner on. So now you might be wondering that we talked about BC as an attack and the main techniques which are spoofing and impersonation that are taken to carry out these attacks. But what are these really, right, and how are they different? So let's look at example of each and meaning of each of those. Exact domain spoofing is a technique where attacker forges the domain to look exactly like the domain of the victim's organization or a domain of their business partner. And since these are exactly the same, they make for a more convincing attack. Email protocols rely on email authentication standards. You might be aware of these, such as SPF, DKIM, DMARC, to enable domain users to authenticate their mails. And if the domain does not configure these settings, then they can be spoofed by the attacker. And then it makes the email look legitimate, but it will instead come from the attacker's email server. So, for example, in this particular example here, when we inspect the mail, the domain that the victim sees is contoso.com, but the actual sender is different. Now, impersonation, on the other hand, is a look-alike, unlike spoofing, which is exact domain sender. So, in impersonation technique, the attacker forges the email domain, which visually looks like the domain of the victim's organization or the domain of their business partner, let's say. So, for example, in this case, the email seems to come from a domain called contoso.com, but it's spelled with a zero instead of an O. And there are various tricks and techniques, tricks I would say, that are used here, such as insertion, omission, homoglyph, or repetition, hyphenation, etc., in the domain name. And so that's how the domain impersonation mainly looks like. User impersonation technique is more to do with a display name and address modification. So email clients use email properties like display name and from address to show the sender of the email. And attackers force these properties to make it visually look like a real sender. And when we take a closer look at this example, we see here that the mail came from a lookalike email address with a slightly different spelling of Megan Bowen here. So the main key takeaway is basically that exact domain spoofing is your exact domain sender. However, impersonation, to note, is a lookalike, which visually looks similar. Okay, so now let's look at the different types of Beck themes that we have mainly observed, and these are primarily used to exploit a business relationship. Uh, First type of theme that we have seen is a lure, which is where usually, these are like one-liner emails, often a gateway to other BEC themes. And typically, these will ask to perform a very simple ask or a very simple task, just to move the communication further or to move it to a different platform, and will kind of showcase the urgency of responding. And some examples would be, hey, can you carry out this task for me before this conference ends, before this date? Or can you please share your information and, just respond to this email to start with? So those are yours. The second category we've seen is the gift card type of BC theme. And here the emails mainly request the recipients to go and purchase a gift card. So for various reasons, they'll make it look like this is something that they cannot do themselves, or they're traveling and they want to purchase a gift card or a number of gift cards for their team. And it's sometimes an example is that, hey, my team has um, um, performed on a great feature, released something recently, and I want to thank the team. So can you please go and purchase this gift card for me? Again, determining or showcasing that type of sense of urgency, and asking to go and purchase a gift card and say, I'll pay you later if you do this for me right now. Then the third category we've seen is invoice. And here the emails mainly request the recipient to provide a payment or complete a particular transaction on a particular invoice, saying, again, showcasing as if it's a higher priority. And, we've had some new vendor join today as an example. Can you please process this particular invoice or do a wire transfer on an urgent basis? Then the next one is business information, which is where they request info such as sales information or financial information, and mainly through impersonation type of attacks, and ask for internal contact details, sometimes saying, I need a copy of these sales details, and it should also include the email contacts, within the report. So can you please send me that for such and such reason? Um, then the next one is payroll redirect. In this case, the emails mainly again request the financial data or PII information, and it's mainly related to your payroll account information, W-2s, or saying request updates to the payroll information to divert payment to another account. So some examples would be like, hey, can you switch my payroll account to this new account and put the money transfer over there? Then the next one is money transfer. In this case, these emails are again impersonation based. When they try to impersonate a known entity and then request the recipient to wire transfer to a different actor owned account, saying, hey, there's XYZ amount. Can you please email me back and tell me that you can process this transfer or not and transfer this amount of money? And then one more category we've seen is extortion. These are mainly blackmail type of emails. So these generally are trying to threaten the recipient, saying, I've collected some of your information. Either I've taken control of your device or your internet activities, or obtained some compromised information, private information, and they're trying to basically say, if you don't make urgent payments to me, then I will not destroy the evidence, and I can basically cause damage or harm to you or your business. So within these Beck themes, a couple of observations that we have seen are that there are top three themes that continue to stay, more or less kind of within our highest buckets. A lure theme is definitely something that comprises more than half of BEC mails. These are primarily targeted towards consumer goods and technology industries. Invoice is the next category, which comprises a quarter of BEC emails. And again, these are primarily targeting technology industries and also higher education industries. And payroll redirect, this one is interesting. We see elevated activity at generally mid month or month end, and mostly real estate industries are generally targeted with this type of payroll redirect. So no wonder BC is a top of mind concern for CISOs, right? So how do we protect against these attacks? Let's talk about what is the AI powered technology that MDO offers, and what do we provide in each of the cases. So MDO honors email authentication. These are the standards SPF, TKIP, DMARC, and when they are properly configured, it detects the authentication failures. If DMARC fails, the message is sent to junk or quarantine folder. And while DMARC standard is useful, our telemetry actually suggests that it is not widely adopted. And in that case, what helps is our industry first technology, which is called spoof intelligence. And this continuously learns about a domain's email sending patterns and flags anomalies. So, what you will see in the spoof intelligence is that you get a view, which is the page here, which basically is your spoof intelligence insight. So spoof intelligence system, what it does is, based on this historical uh, sending patterns of the sender and that those learnings, it determines which of the domain pairs are actually good or bad and allows or blocks accordingly. Now, spoofing is also something that can be used for legitimate reasons. So in case, let's say a message pair is blocked by the spoof intelligence system, and as a SecOps or as a tenant, you feel like this is a spoofed user or a sending infrastructure that we want to allow to spoof, then by all means you can always convert the pair from block to allow, and then going forward those will not be detected as blocked by the spoof intelligence system. So it honors the tenant allow block list, and you can always go to a tenant allow block list spoof senders section and proactively even add certain pairs that you might not want to get blocked or allowed by the spoof intelligence detection system. Now within MDO, we have powerful impersonation detection for targeted user impersonation and domain impersonation. And we have an AI powered technology called mailbox intelligence that constantly learns and builds a communication graph for every user and automatically detects an anomaly. So the key difference here I'd call out between mailbox intelligence and targeted user impersonation is that mailbox intelligence learns the communication patterns, whereas the targeted one does not. So, for example, if you think about Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, he's not going to be on my frequent contacts list because I only get email from him very infrequently, and I, as an employee, never respond anyway. So, in this case, the list of targeted users that a security admin specifies says that regardless of what the system has learned, these users need to be protected. They send to the entire organization, they are often targeted. If you specify your CEO, CFO, HR, or even external board members, their impersonation will be flagged right away without any learning patterns, for which you need the targeted user impersonation protection. Whereas you also want to protect your each individual recipient of the organization from the impersonation of your manager or their manager or co-worker, which can be learned using mailbox intelligence. So all in all, both work together to provide this complete protection against user impersonation. And on the account compromise front, as we move towards the next step in this multi stage attack, last year we have rolled out a new option in the outbound spam policy. This disables external forwarding by default. And this policy has been retroactively applied to existing Office 365 mailboxes to provide the same level of protection to new and existing accounts and to block any compromised activity that may have been going on. Administrators, as in SEC administrators, can create additional policies for specific users to enable forwarding as needed. And for those users that are allowed to forward outside the organization, an additional level of protection is provided through the detection of suspicious forwarding activity. This is also alerting SecOps so they can conduct further investigation, remediate the account, or that way prevent any suspicious behavior. And in some cases, the admin may want to restrict or monitor how users are sending mail to be alerted or restrict the user when they are sending outside of expected parameters. So by configuring the outbound spam recipient limits, admins can monitor for abnormal behavior and take action if required as an early warning that something suspicious is happening. And further, the system also monitors outbound email for suspicious activity and can throttle and block based on the alerts that the SecOps team uh, wants to get notified for. For MDO P2 customers, this includes running playbooks as well to analyze the user for further signs of compromise to streamline basically the remediation and discovery process. And furthermore, for end user awareness, we have a variety of contextual tips and warnings that are natively integrated into Office clients. Towards the end of 2020, we launched a new safety tip based on first time contact signal between sender and recipients. This helps users self detect suspicious emails. So imagine being in the middle of an email chain with your business partner or vendor, and you suddenly receive this warning message saying you don't often get email from this sender. That is a strong indicator of a potential business email compromise attempt. And there are also other tips specifically telling you about user impersonation and domain impersonation, such as this XYZ at contoso.net appears to be similar to somebody you previously communicated with, but may not be that person. Or contoso.net domain, same for domain impersonation, saying domain is not the same domain as your organization's domain. So we've covered how MDO keeps you secure against back attacks by impersonation and spoofing, protections and account compromise. Not only that, let's see how SecOps efficiency can be achieved for BEC response handling. And we take a lot of pride in securing customers across M365D environment for an end-to-end protection and actions that SecOps can take. Let's look at an example kill chain of financial fraud. Sorry, I have my daughter. She's sick and looks like she just had another accident of some sort of waking up in the middle of the night. It's 9:30 p.m. for me. I'm super sorry about this. My husband is taking care of her, but I'm going to try to continue this. And if I cannot come back to Q&A section, I'll try to answer over chat or uh, figure out how we can get the answers. Lalit, is that okay? Okay, I'm going to proceed and then we'll see if the moderator can come back and help me here. Thank you, everyone, for your flexibility on this. So let's take a look at an example kill chain of financial fraud. Here, as we talked about the multi-stage attack, the attacker gains initial access and compromises a user, sends some phishing emails, so MDO and MDE alerts are generated. I'm not going to go into each of these stages here, but it's basically to tell you that a lot of MDE, MDO, M365D alerts fire in this type of a scenario. And here the target is a financial manager of a company. And all these alerts help SecOps basically analyze and further and take actions accordingly. Then all of this nicely ties into an integrated view of an incident with investigations. And evidences and response show that the emails of the alerts in this incident are firing and are giving you more information. Also on the side pane, there is a deep link to MDO email entity page, and that shows you again more details. And then on the M365D VC alert, it shows you all the details of all of the information that we've covered. And this is again to show you an example of a preview of the initial attack using MDO email entity page from within the Explorer. Now, if that's not enough, on the product side, let me share how we are leading the fight against BC crime broadly. Outside of the product, we also partner with Microsoft's digital crimes unit to take the fight to criminal networks. And DCU is basically recognized for their global leadership in using legal and technical measures, including to disrupt cybercrime, including BEC. And DCU continues to uncover criminal evidence and then takes it to an appropriate law enforcement agencies around the world who are prioritizing BEC because it's one of the costliest cybercrime attacks in the world today. In mid 2020, DCU took legal action in partnership with law enforcement and stopped phishing campaigns using COVID-19 lures. Additionally, with the help of the civil cases, they obtained a court order and proactively took down criminals' malicious domains. In 2020, DCU directed the removal of over 744,000 phishing URLs and recovered approximately about 6,600 phish kits, which resulted in the closure of 3,500 email accounts used to steal customer credentials. And this was data in the peak time of pandemic, and 2021 has continued to be in the similar range. Let's further cover some recommendations to reduce your exposure to BEC threats and actions, especially SecOps teams can take. First, upgrade to an email security solution that provides advanced phishing protection, business email compromise, account compromise detection, and internal email protection. So it says without going, remove inbox rules that are created by an attacker, review all the emails that are being sent by attacker from victims' accounts since the compromise, and reset compromised users' passwords, revoke all their active sessions. Next is implement MFA to continue to disable league account takeover and also disable your legacy authentication. BC accounts or BC attacks actually often rely on these compromising email accounts to propagate the attack. And by implementing MFA, you can eliminate 99.9% of account compromise attacks. Uh, then review your protections against your domain spoofing, where the key thing would be leverage spoof intelligence in the MDO product. You can implement DMARC gradually without impacting the rest of your mail flow. And again, take necessary steps to make sure that your own domains are properly configured so they are not spoofed. And one thing is that, the most effective way to train your users is to emulate real threats with intelligent simulations and engage the employees through targeted training. So, complement your email security with user awareness and training. And we have a rich set of training tools for your awareness, user awareness. So, you can check out attack simulation training in Microsoft Defender for Office 365. Now, of course, it is great if you have already enabled MDO, impersonation, and spoofing protections within your tenant. If not, I highly recommend you do so. And for those of you who might not be ready to enable yet for various reasons and are looking for an evaluation or trial, you can start a trial using aka.ms/trymdo, that is TRYMDO. The entire product is available free to use for 90 days, and you can evaluate impersonation and spoofing protections and learn how these would have protected your organization while being in an evaluation mode. And once you have finished your analysis, then you can determine when you want the policies to start taking action on the messages. And additionally, you can evaluate other protections and entire product as well. With that, I have a list of resources and documentation that you can learn more from. I leave them uh, off to you all. And I think with that, I will open it up to questions. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I just came back to my chat here now. Thank you, Ian, for that comment. I think she's doing better now, but I might have to go sooner than planned. So I think I'll stay here for another 10 minutes if anybody has questions. I don't see any in chat, but if you want to ask something, then please feel free to unmute yourself and we can discuss.
Hi, Usha. I'm Mohammed JK here. Thank you for the session.
Sure, Mohammed. Your voice is a little bit low for me, but it could just be me. Yes, tell
Yeah.
me, please.
Are you able to hear me now better?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Might be my side.
Yeah. In our organization, we have enabled this spam filter policy. So just recently, I think for the past 6 months, like we are getting most of these emails as